All right, I'm Tony Lockett, Tony D. Lockett. I like to be in the middle, but I'm Tony D. Lockett. I'm an artist and designer right here in the city of St. Louis, Missouri. I've been I've been drawing and painting and designing since I was a kid. Since I was little enough to watch cartoons and see that and build imagination from that. I've been drawing. I was always a kid at school that was like drawing pictures, drawing tattoos on cats' arm with a permanent marker and stuff like that. Art's kind of always been a passion of mine. I can remember at a young age sitting at a table with like notebook paper, drawing pictures of like Ninja Turtles and stuff, and my aunts telling me like I'm really good and like I could be a good artist. So it's always been a passion of mine. It's always been something that I've been into. I could probably say that I was most inspired to begin doing art around 1988 when the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out. That movie was probably the most inspirational to me. That movie, being able to see real life and to be able to see the animation and the characters come together made me understand that art was kind of a part of reality. Like it was a part of the real world. Like, we could actually create stuff and it could be represented in our everyday life and in our living. And I just taken from that and kind of ran with it. And we doing this interview now. Just yesterday I got one of the most inspirational quotes that I ever heard in my life. That the quote is it's artist's prayer. It's God expressing Himself through you, and that just resonates with me a whole lot, because everything that I've done up to this point as an artist has more or less been an expression of my emotion and what I was searching for or what I was going through at that time. A lot of the pieces that I did early on were pieces of previous or past relationships. When you in those type of situations, you struggle to try to figure out your place, depending on how the situation would have gone, whether it would have been a negative impact or a positive impact on you. You kind of struggle to figure your place out. And at some point, regardless of whether you go to church or whether you believe in Jesus or whatever, you seek God in any form, whether it's you reading the Bible or you reading the Quran, or whether you study religion to find Buddhism or Confucianism or whatever the case. And I've realized now today that my artwork is my expression of myself praying and searching for answers that God may be putting right in my face. I think art is probably the most important thing you could ever have for any young person to be able to express themselves. Artistically, a lot of people are challenged. They can't draw, they can't sing, they can't dance, but art comes in so many different forms. Like, people are artists who know how to manipulate math, or people are artists who know how to like go into a situation and turn it around. If it's a business, they can look at numbers, or they can formulate different equations and decisions based off of the situation. They could understand the history. There's an art in everything. And that's probably the most important thing that you can have, is even for young people or for people who have children, to be able to allow them to express that. When I was growing up, my mom always fueled my art and my ability, even though she didn't really understand it. It was times when she would buy me like camcorders or drafting tables or color pencils and stuff like that. Even though she didn't know exactly what I was going to be doing as far as my artistic ability or how it was going to take my life, what platform I was going to take, but she always kind of nurtured it. And I appreciate that. That was probably real important to me to get me to the point to where I'm at now. The only thing that I could say about that is that at the same time that it's an expression and it's a way to be able to find yourself and get out a lot of emotion, it's the most difficult thing that I could tell you about being an artist is something that a teacher told me back when I was in grade school, and we had an art class, and there was an artist that came in He was an older gentleman. He had been doing art for years, and he had one question. He was like, "What is the toughest thing about being an artist?" And people were like, we were in grade school, but we were just throwing out all different kind of answers, like, like choosing material or finding stuff to paint or trying to figure out situations about licensing or certain things like that, or getting detail. And he was like, the hardest thing about being an artist is selling your work. And that sticks out with me more than anything, because as we go through and I show some of the pieces that I have, like, I can count on one hand how many pieces that I've actually sold. But if we count all the pieces that I've actually done, it's like 20 to 30 times that. So the hardest thing about that is the emotional process that you build up when you create and you put something together that means a lot to you, is actually parting ways with that. I'm learning now that to avoid having the basic mundane 9-to-5 lifestyle, that you have to be an inspiration for people. And the only way that you can be an inspiration for people is to allow them to see what it is that you do. You have to put it out there, what you create, what you make, your ideas, your thoughts. You have to put it out there for the world to see, whether it be just telling people, whether in this era it be social media, or whether you take it back and you just go and you just beat down people's doors and try to get your opportunity. Like, you really have to do that. You really have to put it out there in order to be an inspiration for somebody based off of what you do, or it could possibly go to waste. I think about all the time just at some point in my life dying off and just curious about what the value of my art would be. Like, would it be as valuable if I wasn't here, or would it be even less valuable if I wasn't here? Is it more valuable that I'm here now and that I can share it with people, or the situation comes about when I'm not around and my art collects even more dust? You know what I mean? So I battle with that. But that quote helped me to understand that if I'm gonna be an inspiration and I'm gonna share what I've done and I'm gonna be an influence, that I have to allow it to speak through me, and I have to, for myself, speak it out so that people could see and understand what I created. Born and raised right here in this city in St. Louis, and I've traveled to tons of places, but people said about New York, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. But if you can make it in St. Louis, you can make it anywhere. Like, this is one of the more segregated cities in America, if you ask me. And I've been to a lot of places. I've been, down south all over, Miami, Florida, Texas. I've been on the East Coast, Virginias, Carolinas. I've been to Californias. I've been to places like that. So as segregated as this place is, and a lot of people in the outside world understand that just from what they've seen on TV with Ferguson and things like that. Like, it's really tougher to get your voice out and to get your point across and to get your word, and for people to accept it and understand it outside of just the few people within your inner circle. And I'm getting to the point where I'm like, when I'm really starting to make it within myself. And I think that's probably the most important thing, is making it within yourself. And once you have that confidence, even in a segregated city like St. Louis, you could go out and you could take a lot of no's, but you could get a lot of yeses too, and you could get a lot of feedback that you probably didn't normally think you would get. And I've been getting a ton of feedback that I didn't think that I would normally get from a lot of people in a lot of places that I wasn't expecting. And that's all a part of me growing to the point where I'm at now, to just be able to put the stuff out and continue to advance myself in my art and just take it to another